Ladies and gentlemen, as always, welcome back to another exceptional day on the road here on the Pirate Ragnar Motovlog channel. My name is Alistair, and this is Day 7. Beginning on some damn scenic roads of New Mexico, we have a 600 plus mile day ahead of us and no shortage of sights to see. So without further ado, let me choose a very awkward camera angle to test out and get on the road. Route selection and destination for the day has me hopping on the highway for a little bit, so I took the opportunity to do some on-the-road narration in hopes that the wind audio was manageable, at the very least consistent. It was a gamble, but it seemed to pay off for the day. As always, here is the 2018 me to rant at you for a little bit.
Today, turns out, is going to be a long day. I'm not really sure what Google was doing in telling me that this was a 9-hour day. It's 600 miles. So even if I average a 60 mile an hour speed, that's 10 hours without stops. I should have looked more carefully at that. Maybe there's some roads that I'm on here that I can travel 70. That brings up the other issue. I don't think my chain or tire is gonna last this trip. It looks like I'm gonna need to replace both at this rate. Hopefully no sooner than South Carolina. But then it becomes a whole other issue. So I got an oil change, chain, and the tire to replace. I can't do the tire myself, so it's sitting in the shop for that to happen. So then do I just get them to do the chain and the oil change as well? Save myself the hassle? It's gonna cost, but there's all that extra bullshit that I wouldn't have to do on this trip since I'm bringing it to a shop anyway. So I don't know, I gotta figure that out. So the other thing about getting a shop to do a chain is they will insist usually on getting a chain with the exact number of links rather than just getting a chain and cutting it to size, which is what I would do. But yeah, I don't know what it is. It's either I'm super hard on chains, or I don't maintenance them properly. Oh, that was something I was going to stop doing. Engine braking so much, because that's probably wearing the chain out a lot. Alright, we're really climbing up here. Had to drop into 5th a couple of times now, just because she loses her pickup in 6th. So we just climbed up quite a bit, and now we're getting into a big, expansive flat again. So far, the ride this morning was spectacular. It kind of reminds me like an arid Appalachians. That's something I was going to mention yesterday. I was thinking to myself, I wasn't sure what to expect with New Mexico. I really wasn't. It has a sort of, you almost couldn't tell from what we saw this morning. That was maybe the luscious part, and I guarantee what I was driving through last night, where it was too dark for me to even see it, was more of that. In Roswell, New Mexico, 26 miles. From a bunch of UFO believers. But New Mexico has just sort of a kind of a desolate beauty to it, you know? There's spots like this where it's just kind of desolate, but it's also stunning and gorgeous. And the things I was driving through yesterday were equally just captivating. Some pretty bleak parts of Arizona. Again, not to speak ill of anyone who lives there, of course. It's just the region, but the region that was set aside as the Navajo Nation, it's tough to get through. when you're thinking about just how desolate and unwelcoming it is. Hostile environment. And I don't get that here in New Mexico. I guaranteed if I just started walking off that way, I'd be dead in no time. I'm not saying it's not a deadly place. It's just you get a serene beauty that kind of goes along with it here. It's really hard to describe, folks. You gotta be here, I guess. I really enjoyed driving in through New Mexico and seeing some of the arrays, though. That was kind of neat. I've seen them in movies, but I've never actually been close to see with my own eyes a whole array of satellite dishes like that. Man, look at that sky. It's huge. It's kind of like Colorado and Nebraska before you get into the mountains. The sky goes on forever. It's hard to imagine that there is anything else other than that sky. Crazy. Yesterday, I damn near ran out of gas, and that for the first time. And I mean ran out as in I would have had to stop and take the gas out of my roto pack. I don't mean where I'm actually completely out of gas here. I just mean this tank here, completely out. I hit my reserve and still had 30 miles to go. Insane. The only thing that really saved me was that I was descending from the mountain, and that had a huge impact. I kept cutting the engine off and coasting for long stretches until I was going too slow for it to be safe on that road, you know, in case cars came up behind me or something. And then I would cut the engine back on, try and regain some speed, and then just pull the clutch, cut the engine again. And if I'd not done that, I guarantee I would not have made it to that gas station. I literally must have been on fumes when I pulled up there. And it was dark. The sun was just setting. And then I had another 30 miles to go in pitch black, basically, because there was no street lights, no cars that I could follow for the most part. Once I got on the road heading into Rodizio, or Ruidoso, however it's pronounced. Woo!
Okay, I'm gonna have to break the fourth wall a little bit here. Did you see that? Even at 60 frames a second, it goes pretty fast. And the Hero 4 is only running at 30 frames a second, so, well, that's useless. But out of nowhere, this dude here thinks it's appropriate to come head to head with my helmet. And I'm a little curious if he had time to regret that decision. This is a clean helmet, and now, well, it's fully decorated. Let's see that again.
Excuse me. Woo!
Alright, enough of that. What was I saying?
That was a giant-ass bug. At least a hard one. Yeah, it wasn't until I actually got in there was there a couple of cars that I could follow, and then of course I ended up taking a turn that left me with only cars blasting their lights in my face. I have not positioned this light correctly when I assembled everything together again. In hindsight, I really should have checked that more. It's facing or pointed too far up, and then it only becomes super apparent when you actually drive at night, which I've been avoiding. All right, well, Roswell, here I come. My goal for today is Waco, Texas. I'm gonna get there no matter what because I intend to be in Baton Rouge to see Ozzy, an old schoolmate of mine from Thailand, and I have a place to stay there the next night. And there's no way I'm gonna make it there if I don't get at least as far as Waco tonight. I think today may be the longest day. I hope. I haven't actually double-checked the route from Waco to Baton Rouge. Anyway, this recording is getting long enough. I've been on the highway so long now, I don't actually know how much of this got picked up, sadly. So, what can you do? Anyway, I'll catch you folks later.
Pop quiz. Who is an absolute legend? Bingo! If you've made it this far into the video, I can't think of a more fitting title than legend, so thank you. Be sure to check out the Pirate Ragnar on Instagram and Twitter for more regular updates, and if you haven't already, why not check out the Sunday series videos? Links in the description below. In no time at all, I'm rolling through infamous Roswell, New Mexico. I'll admit it was a bit disappointing in terms of sights to see from the bike, but it sure was busy compared to everything else I'd ridden through that day. A gas top-up, and then a quick stop to snap some photos at the most appropriate sign I could find, and we're underway once again. Well, until we weren't for a bit. But that's traffic for you.
Finally, the other traffic. We've been here about maybe 10 minutes, 15 if I'm less delusional than I think I am, because it just felt like forever. I'm also just sitting in the heat, baking. The only other person suffering the same way is that dude up there holding the sign. Tell you what, everyone else is sitting in their cage, their air conditioner running. Whew!
After that bit of waiting, I can now introduce you to New Mexico, Super Flat Edition. In stark contrast to the ride this morning, the next section consists of roads so flat that I may have actually begun thinking I took a left somewhere and ended up in Kansas on this trip after all. Apparently, today was the day of poor camera angles, and yet another day of not checking battery levels. I'm really quite rubbish at this. Or I was. I promise I've gotten better over the years. What happened here was some chain hopping on the front sprocket. What I mean by that is the chain had become too loose, and I could feel the rubbing each rotation as the front sprocket's teeth fought to keep the chain in line. Realizing this, I found a gas station that was okay with me doing some work at the side, and proceeded to make the same mistake I'd been making the whole trip to date. Let me explain. Up until this point in my motorcycle career, for lack of a better word, I've had a very simple process for chain maintenance. It started years ago when I learned to align wheels the old-fashioned way. What a pain in the butt. And in later years, I just learned to pick up one of these bad boys to aid in the alignment process. Armed with that, it was always a simple matter of checking how much play was in the chain before setting off, and if there is too much, break out the tools quickly, tighten the chain up, and make sure it's aligned in the process. Good to go, right? Sure. For the sake of argument, let's just roll with that. The question then becomes, does your bike have a center stand? See, the old CB450s had this awesome feature of coming with a center stand in addition to the side stand. With that novelty, my whole process for mulch changed, because aligning the tire and chain with the center stand is so much easier. But you see, what I didn't think about when you're using a center stand, none of the weight on your bike or your luggage is actually on the swing arm in the back wheel, which means it's not in the same position it will be when you get it off the center stand and both wheels are back on the road. And I genuinely never thought of that. Well, what does that mean? Well, it means that each time I tightened the chain on the trip, I was on the center stand, so none of the weight of my luggage or myself or the bike was taken into account, and every time I dropped the bike, I was seriously over-tightening it. So the strain put on the chain to stretch and fit each day that I had adjusted it played havoc with both the chain and the sprockets. I blew through that chain in less than 8,000 kilometers in the end. All because I was essentially overly vigorous with my maintenance, and because I'm an idiot. Okay. So, remember, tighten your chains with your weight in place. PSA over. Let's get back on the road. Somewhere between the farms, the windmills, and the cow pens, we passed from New Mexico into the formidable state of Texas. I'm not sure if it was just the music or that sense of accomplishment that had me dancing, but here it is. In all its glory. Anyways, on that note, if you are liking the content on this channel, be sure to smash that like button, drop some comments below, and hit the bell icon to be notified when new videos are uploaded. And if you just want to help the channel out in any way, be sure to share these videos on social media. It helps more than I can express. After another quick stop for fuel, both for Malls and myself, we are well over halfway through our ride for the day. New Mexico and Texas are full of diversity in the land and the people you pass. The rather typical for America massive tracts of farmland are broken up by quaint little towns and huge plots of open range, usually sporting the rolling hills or canyons that we expect when we hear either state. There is one thing, however, that will have me slamming on the brakes and getting off the road in a heartbeat. The thought of good, non-gas station beef jerky. This place was legit. They are on Facebook, but their website doesn't seem to work. So if you're passing through the area, hit them up. Link in the description below. How's it going?
Pretty good. How you doing?
Oh, I saw Jerky. And I'm obsessed with the stuff.
Beef and buffalo on the top shelf, elk and venison on the second shelf. Wow. Prices are up on the other board.
Fair enough. You have too much selection now. It makes it difficult to choose, right? Thank you much.
Thank you. They peel apart at the top corners.
Okay, perfect. All right. Have a wonderful day.
You too.
As I ride deeper and deeper into rural Texas, one thing becomes glaringly obvious to me. Texas is huge. I mean, properly huge. Particularly when you're driving through from one side to the other. It just goes and goes and goes. And it's a mixed blessing, because a lot of it is the same, or it seems that way. But I also promise that just as you're thinking to yourself you couldn't possibly stomach seeing yet another family cattle farm sign or oil derrick in the distance, you'll look up and find yourself somewhere stunning. On old but damn good roads to twist and turn to your heart's content. No, you're not up in the mountains here, but Texas does a decent job of trying to make up for it. The distance Malls can cover in a day is outrageous to me. She's older than me, and really doesn't skip a beat. Due to the convenient, at least for me, way that Texas is laid out, we have to come down off the Edwards Plateau into the rolling plains before heading back up toward Waco for the night. Being in the valley cuts the sun off even earlier, so a visor change was due, and a slight wardrobe malfunction needed fixing. The rest of the day passed without issue, though the distance made for yet another ride well into the night. A special thanks to all the cagers that played nicely, to the really, really good Jerky company, delicious, and to Purple Planet for all the great music clips. And as always, ride safe and ride fun, and I'll see you on the next video.